Good chalk and cheese there. Well, while sibling conflict is normal, if it's not dealt with at a young age, it can be very serious in relationships later. Child psychologist Kimberly O'Brien joins us. Good morning, Kimberly.
Good morning, Kerry.
What sibling rivalry, what sort of triggers this? Is there an age attached?
Well, I guess when there's a new baby born, sometimes there's instant sibling rivalry with, you know, toddlers trying to gouge babies and things like that. But usually it tends to intensify when they are both siblings, so maybe they're aged 3 and 5, and that's when kids are learning how to share. So there's lots of issues that arise, but it's generally about living together in a harmonious environment. That's what kids need to learn.
So if it's going to happen, it is going to happen at that early age, or can it develop?
Yeah, definitely. It tends to start earlier, but sometimes it gets worse and worse as kids get older. And I know I came from a family of 4, and sometimes there was like warring between the ages of, say, 8 and 12 years. That was quite intense. Kids are sort of getting stronger, and so they're wrestling sometimes. Parents need to know when to step in and when to say, look, this is a non-violent household, and we don't fight, we don't hit in this household. But also remembering that sometimes words can play back in siblings' minds, even when they're older. So,
oh yeah, it is something from your experience as a psychologist. You know, this very early sibling rivalry.
Yes.
How late can it still impact on your life?
Well, sometimes kids, you know, are sort of growing into adolescence, and in my experience as a psychologist, you know, sometimes women are having eating disorders when they're, you know, 17, 18 because they were told they were fat by their brothers when they were, you know, younger. So sometimes these things can impact on not only eating disorders, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and also their relationships as they move into adulthood. Well,
I think every parent with a couple of kids, 3 kids or 2 kids, really desire their children to grow up and be friends. If this sibling rivalry isn't dealt with early, what can happen?
Well, I think it would be great if siblings were friends, and probably in the majority of families they do get along some of the time. And we need to know that we need to let people know that sibling rivalry is quite normal. So it happens in most families on a daily occurrence. There's squabbles. Ideally, siblings should learn to respect each other, and usually when there's friends being invited into the home, they tend to feel that, you know, violence is uncool, and even calling friends names can sort of get in the way of their play date. So usually as they get older, those sorts of things subside, and then they get along as adults, ideally.
But if it's not nipped in the bud early, so let's get to some advice for parents who've got, you know, the young ones when they go from toddlers into young adolescents.
Yes.
How should this sibling rivalry be dealt with?
Okay, I brought a book along. This is good for toddlers. So it's called Hands Are Not for Hitting by Martine Agassi. So that's good to talk about having a non-violent household and how, you know, not to hit. I think.
But do you have to get to the core of the rivalry? It's like, you know, especially where there's that little bit of an age gap, where one's a bit more mature and thinks they're way too smart to be dealing with little brother or little sister.
Yeah, I think it's important to find out what the reasons are, but also research suggests that siblings that are closer in age fight more, and if they're the same gender, they fight more as well. So sometimes just separating them and having individual time with both parents and showing them, you know, that you might be good at netball or you're really good at drawing, to sort of foster those independent interests is a good way to deal with sibling rivalry.
Okay, other tips for parents?
I think it's also really important to stop words like, say, shut up, or, you know, words that can get into a household.
If you take out shut up, you're going to take the kids' vocabulary out.
Yeah, but sometimes putting, like, put downs can be the things that hurt the most in the long term, so really nipping these things in the bud quickly.
So how do you sit your child down and explain that, you know, they can't be condescending and they can't be nasty?
I think it's important to have like a weekly meeting with the family to say these words have crept into our household, we're not happy with that. So what do we want in the household? We want to all work together and want to have family outings on the weekend. So let's all try and respect each other, have a safe house where we can try new things. And if siblings are on board with that, they get to join in as a family. If they're being, you know, rude and putting people down, they tend to have to sit by themselves until they're ready to come back, and they're welcomed back into the family when they're going to behave.
So I guess, again, communication and just saying it's not acceptable to be mean to your brother or sister.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, and it can impact later on in life, and those little things that are said to you as a kid really come back to haunt you on so many occasions.
Yeah. So as adults as well, as in that film clip, I think it's good to talk about it to older siblings as well, you know, to say, I remember when you did that, and they'll probably remember different things that you did as well. So put it out there, talk about it, and try and resolve it so that there's not family feuds that go on forever.
Indeed.
Because these things happen.
Indeed they do. Maybe you've got a view there, a story about that, morningtalk@9.com.au. Kimberly O'Brien, thank you.
Thank you.
We've got more coming up. Here's Roz. This is an invention to make sure your garden hose does not leak.
I'm pretty sure